All right, so we are recording. All right, Dana. So thank you
Hello.
for sitting down and having a conversation with me. Obviously, you definitely were the first person I wanted to talk to because you have spent the most time at Bethany's Home Sweet Haunted Home with me
Yep.
than anybody else out there, since you have put in so many days helping me work to make it what it is today. I couldn't have done it without you. And that has added to some of the fun and horror. No, it's fun. It's just fun of it all. One of the first things I was thinking about talking about, just in general, I know this answer, but like, do you believe in spirits? Do you believe in ghosts?
I do. I don't know necessarily that I believe in like the really scary out to hurt you, but there's definitely, I believe there's spirits out there. I believe they try to communicate, whether it's making sounds, noises, touches. I absolutely believe in that.
And have you had experiences before?
Yes, actually, as a kid, I could always see a white flash go in my peripheral when my mother and I lived in this home in Del Paso Heights. Never scary, but they would just walk by me.
But like no other communication other than that?
Not really. Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
All right. So when we were first looking at this house, it's funny because I know that there's another property that we were looking at that I asked you to ask the real estate agent if the house was haunted. But yes. I don't think I ever asked you to do that about. I don't think I ever asked about this house.
No, it wasn't until the day of the home inspection that we had our first experience, or at least I had my first experience. I know you felt uneasy in Bethany's closet.
But that wasn't until later than that, actually, which we'll get to. We'll get to, because I never went into that room before we did our final walkthrough. But let's go back to the home inspection. So you were talking about the home inspection.
Yep.
Gosh, sometimes I really want to really question John on this more. So John, the home inspector, he really did not want to do the home inspection of this house. So he wanted nothing to do with it. He tried to talk me out of buying the house. He didn't want anything to do with the house at all. Right. But we forced him to do it. And so obviously it's a big house with a lot of rooms and a lot of stuff. So he kind of did a more basic version of it.
Yes.
And then while it was going on, what made you feel like the house, maybe that there might be a ghost there?
So at one point it was just John and I there, and I was looking for him, and the street level happens to be what we call the upper level, or at least that's what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had come into the hallway and I was calling out for John, and I heard 2 knocks in the solarium. So as I went back towards the solarium, there's a whole wall of windows, and I thought, well, John's not out here, maybe he's outside. But for anyone who's never been there, those windows, it's a very long drop into the creek.
It'd be therefore, like John 3 stories from there.
Yes. So therefore John was not outside. He actually was out front and said that he never heard me calling for him. Okay. So that was my first time.
And then when I got there to go over what he found, the first thing he started talking about was ghosts.
Yes.
Which I mean, he's never done that before with any of the houses I've thought, never since. But nope. He immediately was like, well, but what if this house is haunted?
Yes. And I've never had a conversation with him on any houses that he's done for any of my other clients.
And so I started questioning him a little bit more on this, like about the hauntedness of it. And so he started explaining that he has had experiences with ghosts in his own house and in different places in the past. But immediately that was like one of the first things he said, but what if the house is haunted? And I was like,
yes,
who cares? So like, didn't really think about it. I always say, like, you know, obviously from a legal standpoint, we should have been notified that the house was haunted. And it's
Yes.
clear that previous tenants know that the house is haunted.
Yes.
So now, I mean, we know that now, but we didn't at
Yeah.
the time. Although knowing me, I don't think
Right.
it would have dissuaded me.
No, definitely not, because you had one whisper in your ear at another house. But we can get into that later.
Oh gosh, I forgot about that. But we didn't. But I
Yeah.
didn't buy that house.
No, but
I bought this one instead, actually.
yeah.
All right, and then when we did the final walkthrough, I want to say that Bethany's room was the last room we did when we did the final walkthrough too. Like we had gone through the entire house, and that was the very last room. And I never went into this room. And for those who don't know, I have named all the rooms. Bethany's, when you first walk in the front door, to the right is Bethany's room, and to the left is the library, is the living room with the library. I'm obsessed with books and libraries. So immediately when I walked in the front door, that is where I went. And then I went in one side, went out the other side, and never even saw that bedroom. And so I didn't go in there until we were doing our final walkthrough, and we had to go into every single room in the house. And at that point in time, I walked in that room and I just crinkled my nose. And I was like, I don't like this room. And it was you, me, and our my handyman at the time, Tom, who did not believe in ghosts. And I said, I was like, ugh, I don't like this room. There's a girl locked in that closet. At that time, like honestly, when I said that, what did you think? Like, did you think I was crazy? Did you think?
Not crazy, but wondering where it came from, because I didn't feel anything in that room, and I have not since, except the one night.
Okay. The paranormal investigation night?
Yes.
Okay. So I walked in there, and yeah, I felt like you both were looking at me like, you're crazy, lady. But I mean, I don't know. There's just something about it. And I've never liked that closet, never, ever, ever liked that closet. And so then the next time we really spent any time in this house was when we had paranormal investigators come in. Yes. And I didn't talk to them beforehand. And as a matter of fact, the person who arranged it, she had never been to the house beforehand either. So I wasn't privy to the conversation they had. I know what she told me is that she just asked, like, hey, do you want to check out an old brothel in Jackson? And she's like, oh, sure. And they didn't really take it too seriously, because it was like 1:30 on a Saturday afternoon that they showed up. And the first thing that happens, I'm just sitting on the couch. I have not talked to them about anything. They decide to walk around and kind of just feel all the feels. And the first thing she did, Tammy walked into that bedroom and walked out and said, I don't like that bedroom. I said, me either. She's like, there's a girl in that closet. And that for me was like, I feel like a huge like turning point, because like when I was a kid, I also like, I had seen ghosts and I had felt them, but usually shadow people. So not when, if I saw them, still to this day, if I were to see them, I wouldn't be happy about it, because usually it's negative energy. But I've felt them. I've had them knock, like my great grandmother's house. Like I was in a bedroom right after she died, and like artwork jumped off the wall. So I've had some experiences, but as I got older, I just kind of tuned it all out. And I feel like just this one experience of Tammy walking in there and coming out and saying, there's a girl in that room, completely changed everything for me, because it was a validation that I'm not just making crap up. And so that was kind of a big deal for me. Were you there at that time, or did you get there later?
So I came for the evening investigation. I wasn't there for the afternoon one.
Okay. So yeah, so you weren't there for that part of it. So then what happened, just for everybody else, was that they came in, and immediately we went into the basement, and they just got so many hits right away. So they would like record for a couple minutes and then play it back, and they were hearing stuff. So, and having whispers in their ears, having all these things that we've kind of experienced there. And so they said that they wanted to come back that night with all of their equipment. And so then that's when you joined us, because at that point in time, it was like 8:30 at night or something. They decided to come back. They had planned an investigation at a local hotel, actually, where I got married. But they decided to scrap that and instead come to the house and check it out because it was new to them. The hotel was not.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is your most memorable experiences from that night?
So I believe, if I remember correctly, we were in Bethany's room and Tammy had put the earphones on.
No,
was at Bethany's room?
Middle bedroom, the middle room, the sitting room.
Oh, that was the middle room. Okay, because I remember she had put the headphones on, and sorry about that. Mm-hmm. And there was a gentleman standing in the closet, and so she was relaying what she heard in the room.
So she was wearing headphones that blocked out, so she couldn't hear what any of us were saying, but she was listening to a spirit box. So yes. She couldn't hear our questions, but she would just relay what was popping up in the spirit box. The spirit box basically, it's just white noise. And then occasionally you'll get like it sounds like a word will pop through. And so, yeah, so she had like basically like, headphones on. She couldn't hear anything we were asking. She was just responding when she heard something.
Yes. And there was a gentleman standing in the closet, and then whoever was in the closet, and that closet kept telling him to get out, get out of the closet. He was in her space or his space, and didn't like him standing in there. Mm-hmm. So that was my most memorable. That was one of my most memorable moments. The other one was in the basement.
Okay, yeah, and they seem to mess with Matthew a lot from the first time he got there. And I feel like in the basement especially, it seems like men get messed with more than women.
Yes.
That's my experiences with it, at least. Well, I mean, luckily we have different experiences, but there was many men that had made mention of like sounds like somebody whispering in their ear or blowing on the back of their neck type thing. And these are people who came at different times, so they didn't know that was happening to Matthew earlier. And then it happened to this random person who showed up later after we'd already started and had the same experiences. But we haven't had those. I mean, I haven't. I don't think, have you?
Other than being touched, I've not had. And your arm, they tickled your arm hairs that one time, but not the blowing or the whispers. No.
Yeah, so I haven't had that. So I feel like in some ways that perhaps they mess with men more in the basement than they do with us. Not to say that they don't communicate with us or do other things. I mean, I have been touched many times, but it feels like when when I was touched, it felt like I could feel my arm hair moving, like somebody was petting my arm hair, so not actually touching my skin, but you could feel your arm hair moving. So I've had that happen several times, and I should mention that every time that's happened, I've invited them to do that. So it's not just like randomly I'm getting touched, although you have randomly been touched.
I have. Apparently they like my ass.
So you were touched in the basement and in the living room upstairs. Yes. The paranormal that night when the paranormal investigation is when you were touched in the basement. You were touched in the basement, right? Is that what
yes, on my like middle of the back, and then kind of went up my back towards my shoulder blades.
So like a long touch.
Yes, kind of like they were
petting you
rubbing
too.
Upwards. Okay. Yeah.
You were also being pet, just differently than me. All right. I just had my arm being pet, so that's more exciting. And then much later, I mean, your butt was grabbed. I mean, how long ago was that? That wasn't that long ago. Because all of this we're talking about was like July of 21.
Yes.
It was, so we're talking. Was it December? Maybe it was December.
December or January for sure.
Yeah, that's when we were in the living room. And that was in the day, wasn't it?
Yep. I think we were just sitting down to eat lunch, I believe. Or maybe we were done getting lunch, but I was standing there and I was just like, and
your back was to the wall, and I was like across the room
on the other side. Yep.
It's just, I mean, the living room is small, but
right.
Nobody was behind me.
I thought maybe I had rubbed against the wall or something, and I looked behind me and I had a foot between me and the wall. So clearly I did not just brush the wall as I was standing there randomly.
So so you've had a lot more of and then this is again the only time you've ever been like touched by spirits that you're aware of?
Oh, I think so. I think I can't recall of any time. I've never really, this was my very first paranormal investigation. So I was super excited about it. Mm-hmm. And so I've never like gone to anywhere to see things or, you know, haunted houses or anything. So this was like my first experience, really.
And I've been like, I'm the person who, I'm going to go to New Orleans. So I'm going to Google the most haunted hotel in New Orleans. And that's where I'm going to stay.
I'm going with you next time.
So I have been to lots of places. I've been to the Stanley, you know, the Winchester Mystery House doing the basement tour. I got kind of sick on the extended tour. I've been to the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. So I've been to many places, but obviously I've had a lot more experiences here, but that's just because I happen to spend a lot more time here. Yes. Although lately it's been pretty quiet for me. So I think they're getting used to me. Because they don't seem to bother me too much anymore. I'm old news, I think. Also, it seems that when there's more people, there's more energy going on in the house. So usually, a lot of times it's just me there by myself working on the house. So there's not a whole lot that goes on there. Anything else you can think of, like as far as memorable experiences about like the paranormal investigator?
So I know during the paranormal investigation, there were different groups split up. Some of us got great feedback or, you know, connections in the basement as to where when the next group came, they didn't get that. Same with Bethany's room. I think our group didn't really get much in there, but they were in there for like an hour or hour and a half and got a lot of stuff. Yes.
Yeah, so, they were there for a long time. I think we started in the basement, they started up there, and I think by the time we switched, we had just worn all the ghost energy out. And so they didn't get anything in the basement, and then we didn't get anything in Bethany's room. Like the ghosts were done. Although the one thing that I also, looking back upon, I find a little bit funny is that there was that man, and I don't remember his name, who came in super late. So he didn't show up until like 9:30 at night. And when he did his walkthrough, he looked at the closet where the laundry room is and said, or where the laundry is now, and said, there's a guy in there. And I was like,
I did see that. I did see somebody standing there that night.
And I was like, no, there's not. Like I never, at that point in time, the only places I had my energy was drawn is that middle bedroom, Bethany's room, and the basement. That's it. So I was like, no, there's not. And of course now, where's most of the activity happening?
Well, especially if you're hanging curtains, they don't like it.
But
they
just
knock
in
from
general,
that area.
Yeah. So in general, most of the stuff that goes on is in near where that closet was. So now it's kind of ironic. I feel like that he like said that there was a guy in that closet, and I totally was like poo-pooed it. Like, yeah, whatever. And now I'm like, oh God, that guy in the closet, you know?
Yes.
Only now.
Well, and also one of the gentlemen had come in and asked if they were with us, but we went upstairs and they said, was somebody bouncing a ball up here?
So that was Chad, and Chad's wife was actually running the group in Bethany's room, but he was managing the camera system. Gotcha. So he spent most of his time just staring at camera screens, trying to see a ghost, which I've never seen in the house. But so that's what he spent most of his time. But so he's a demonologist. He's the one who told me that the part of the basement I don't like, that there's a portal down there. And so he did spend some time in the basement, as did other people, because again, another man showed up a little later, and he was also having weird experiences in that part of the basement. So they were just like, after everyone was done, they were just like going down there and sitting on a bucket down there. And they, again, having the same kind of experiences of being like whispered in the ear, blown on, like that sort of stuff. So they were being messed with down there. So they were kind of playing along with that. And then at that point in time, Chad came up and said, are you bouncing a ball? And I just looked at him like he was crazy. I'm like, a million people in here. No, nobody's bouncing a ball. And now I'm really sad that I didn't hear what that was, because what was it, like 2 days later, we had a tenant who moved in, and I talked to her like a day later, and she's like, I have to tell you, it's wild around here at night. She's like, last night it sounded like somebody was bouncing a ball. I just thought that's really weird that she would say the exact same thing that he would say. And then later on, we had a night where we spent the night. There was a group of us. So again, so Tom, the handyman, his wife, his sister, you and I, we spent the night. We were putting together furniture, and he went upstairs to use the bathroom. And now again, he's a skeptic, and so that's kind of one of the reasons he wanted to stay, is because he was a skeptic. And so he went upstairs to use the bathroom, and he felt, when he came out, he told us that like he thought that one of us, we were back there and we were going to try to mess with him and like jump out and scare him. And he had mentioned hearing a ball bouncing. So 3 people, unrelated, all heard this ball bouncing, but I had never heard it. And now it may be too late. So yeah, so that made me, for some other reasons, like the little child's footprint made me really believe that there was like a little boy that was living in the house. On top of Bethany in the closet, there's a little boy, because we had
and the little handprint on the refrigerator.
Yes, so the footprint on the steps, the handprint on the fridge. Actually, there was 2 handprints, but I only really could get like a good picture of one of them, because the other one just wasn't as deep, dark, whatever. Didn't show as well in pictures. So yeah, so we assumed at that point in time that there was a little boy living there. And that night we went into the basement with them to kind of like check it out again. Tom he does not believe, and so I was like, well, you don't believe here, we're gonna put you on a bucket in the creepy corner and see what happens. And so I'm gonna see if I can share my screen with you here, because I want to.
Now, should we give the backstory that led up to that moment? Because I think I know what you're going to share. So if I remember correctly, Tom was sitting on the bucket, and somebody, I think he had said something like he didn't believe, and then I forget his sister's name.
Tempe.
Thank you. Tempe thought that your stomach had growled. You thought that the noise had come from over by her. And both of you confirmed. And then you asked me if it was me, because I was sitting on your other side, and none of us, like, our stomach growled or we didn't do anything. And then my camera or my phone caught the video that I believe you're going to share.
Yes. So I'm just going to see if I can figure this out. Can you see it? No?
Yes.
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 You can see it? Okay.
I can. Can you make it full screen? Or, oh, I guess not, huh?
You'd have to do that like on your thumbnail video.
Okay.
All right. So this video, you had set up your camera on the wall and had push record. And so then later when you went back, you found this. So this is actually it twice and then zoomed in on it. So he's sitting in this bucket, which I guess would be probably right here. And then it flies off. Now, again, non-believer, so rewind, there it goes. And so we're going to zoom in, and you'll see it breaks apart in strange ways too, which is unusual. So it's hard to, because I keep trying to debunk everything. And so that does not kind of fit with that. So that happened. And then I'm going to stop sharing. He lasted on that bucket for what, 3 minutes total? Yes. And then he was completely covered head to toe in goosebumps. And he said he saw light out the corner of his eye down the little, and this section of the basement, there's no exterior windows, there's nothing. So there's no reason a light would be coming from the right side, because it's literally cement walls. But he kept seeing like a light out of the corner of his eye. And so, yeah, he lasted about 3 minutes on that bucket, and he was just completely covered in goosebumps. And so he ceased to be a skeptic at that point in time. So, yeah, so that was one of the, and his wife was also getting things, although I'm not sure, it doesn't really fit anything I know about the house. So I'm not really too sure what, but you know, we all had kind of different experiences there. And when they had shown up, they parked down the street at the parking lot and they're walking by the quadplex next door. One of the guys was talking to him and said that he used to live there. And he said because the woman who lived there was scared because stuff was happening at night and she didn't want to be there alone and people thought she was crazy. And he's like, I have to tell you, it gets wild around night. So it's just funny that like other people, and I hope to talk to a tenant who lived there for 2 years pretty soon as well. So that was then. And then other, I feel like most memorable event for us would have been the night that we hung curtains in the solarium.
Yes.
So Friday night, probably 9:30 at night. I should say that there's now motion activated lights in the hallway because we're big sissies. Okay. So we don't want to go upstairs alone at night. I'm working on it. Okay. I'm really making a concerted effort to work on this, but it's especially easier now with the lights. So, but at the time there was no light. So basically you'd have to turn the light on. And then when you get to the top of the stairs, the light switch is either all the way down one end of the hall or all the way down the other end of the hall. So you have to go out in the dark and to go turn on the light. So this is the game that we were playing where we were like, okay, you stay here and then run down the hall, turn on the light, and basically playing leapfrog so we would never be in the dark. So we were hanging curtains in the solarium because it was summertime and it was so hot. And so we were putting up blackout curtains to try to keep it cooler. And at 9:30 at night, and we're just minding our own business, hanging these curtains. And then what did you hear?
We heard knocking sounds, which was coming from where the now laundry is.
Was it there? I don't think so. I thought it was in the bedroom.
I believe it was. Well, it was coming from that side of the house, so we were checking out that area.
Yeah, because I thought it was laundry from the other farthest bedroom, which has its own exterior door. So this house has 4 exterior doors. It's 3,200 and something square feet. It's a big house. And so there's us 2 girls in this big house alone on a Friday night. And so yeah, I hear it in the bedroom. And so we kind of go like tiptoeing. And then again, having to go all the way across the black room to hit the light switch and turn the light switch in. There's nothing there. So we're like,
I think it happened like 3 times before we were finally done.
We went back and started working, doing more work. We're almost done by then. And then there's pounding happening, this time from the bathroom. But we could see inside the bathroom from where we're at. So we're like, okay, this just isn't funny. I lost my patience this day with the ghosts. I did. I lost my patience. So then we go downstairs and I can play that video too. Although
yes, I believe this would have been the next morning.
The next morning, what?
Where are you doing the video when we were talking about the iron?
Yeah, but that was the same. That was right afterwards. We went downstairs.
Oh, I thought it was the next day. Okay.
No, it was right afterwards. So we went, we're up there doing that. We went downstairs and I was in the bathroom and I went to the bathroom. And when I was in, because you had said that I wish I would have brought my steamer so I could steam these curtains.
Yes.
And so I went downstairs, went to the bathroom, have an iron in there. It's still in the box, never been used. And it says that you can use it for upright steaming. And so I got overly excited, as adults do, about ridiculous stuff like this. And when I did that, whoever it was not a fan of all of our noise happening.
Nope.
Let's see here. And that is, sorry, I've got to find this video here. And it's kind of hard. It's going to be hard to hear. So
it might be hard to hear, yes, but you can hear us responding to it.
Yeah, I mean, this video on Facebook is just like the 4-minute version. So I had cameras downstairs. You can see some mess. So this is when we were still setting up downstairs. I was basically spending a lot of time at the house. And so basically this was like my home base where I kept all my tools, where everything was downstairs in the apartment while we were working on upstairs. And so it's a big old mess, and I don't know why at the time I didn't think to look at the video to see if I could hear the pounding that we were hearing upstairs. I mean, I never looked at that.
No, we didn't.
I don't know why, but I didn't. So, but after this happened, I definitely, because there's a camera down here and it happened down here, I definitely did. And so let's see if we can hear it. That little thing. That'll help. Let's try that again. Let's try that again. So you can hear you're like, all right, we can use that. And then bump, bump. So we heard stomping up above us now. So again, oh my, don't mind that. So yeah, Facebook's just gonna start playing videos for me. That's so calm. I don't even know what it is. All right, let's go back. Sorry, I'm new to all this stuff. All this stuff I'm new to. So yeah, when that happened, then I'm trying to like figure out how to get my window back, but it's hidden from me, which is just so rude. So at that point in time, that's actually when I lost my cool.
Yes, we were in the basement when you told them how you really felt, and I was shocked. I was trying not to laugh because I was shocked by what you were saying.
Like I was being told what to do in my house, and I was going to tell these ghosts very clearly.
Yes, you did.
That it is not okay with me. This is my house. And so I basically went off saying he was an a-hole in real life and he's an a-hole now. And this is my house. If he didn't like me making noise in my house, he can GTFO. And yeah, I ranted. But I have to say that seemed to be a turning point because, I mean, we still had banging noises when we get noisy. But before that, I had never slept a decent night in this house. Like I was awake all the time, just like staring out the window. I could not sleep. And after this, I started sleeping like the dead. Like I sleep so good there, better than I do at home by far. I sleep in later. Part of that's because it's a basement, so it's lower, takes longer for the sun to get through the windows. But after that, I definitely started sleeping better. So I talked to somebody I know who does energy work, and she said that she thought that Bethany wasn't locked in the closet, that she was hiding in the closet from the grumpy guy making all the noise. And I said, well, that makes sense to me. So she tried to clear the place. And so to clear it means to make the ghosts go away. But basically it's to give them the option. Like, hey, well, why don't you can move on if you want to, you don't have to. And since then, we've had no kids. So the Bethany and the ball bouncer, they left. But we still have whoever likes to pound and make noise while we're there. So that one still exists at least. But all the activity mostly happens at night, or if it's raining, so it's overcast, or in the basement, which is always dark. The unfinished part of the basement. So it seems like that's where most of the activity is. Or, for example, I really didn't like going into the middle bedroom because it has no external windows, and then the one window it had a darkening curtain on it, so the room was pitch black. I did not like to go in that room during the day or anything. I've opened the window. I'm making friends with this room. It's taken me some work, but I'm really trying to make friends with the room, which is the weirdest thing ever. And just in all honesty, I want people to book and stay, but I have to be honest. I have never slept upstairs alone until last week. So,
and you contemplated that.
Yeah, because I could have slept in the basement apartment. It's empty now, but I feel like I don't like being upstairs when it's dark. Still don't. And so I felt like this is ridiculous. Like, I need to get over this because nothing bad has happened. We haven't had anything malicious or, nothing that feels evil or anything else. Right. It mostly feels like jokers or annoyance, like, and trying to be funny, right? That's what it feels like too. Like, yeah. Can you mansplain that for me again, Ghost Man? That's what it feels like. It's annoying, but it's nothing malicious. So I kind of like, okay, I need to get over this. And so I for the first time, actually slept in the bedroom upstairs by myself. And now, honestly, I think I've only slept upstairs now 3 times total. So, and the first time was on the floor in the tenant's bedroom when she first moved in, and I was there because I was too afraid to be there by myself, which now I look back at it knowing her. She was an interesting character, to say the least. And then with Dana. So it's the only other times I've ever slept in there. So most of the time I had slept in the apartment. And again, I stayed there most weekends for like 6 months. But yeah, never slept upstairs. So that's kind of I feel so, I'm a big girl.
You did great. So proud of you.
And not only did I sleep up there, but I actually just hung out upstairs. Like I went when I was done, like doing my work, I sat down to watch TV in the basement, and I was like, I need to go upstairs and watch TV. And so I forced myself to go hang out and watch TV, but I refused to watch anything even remotely scary. I watched Cruella instead of like The Walking Dead. So, because I'm a sissy, and Harry Potter, like that's all I'll watch around there. Try to make it happy. Because there's been all sorts of like other people too. So I mean, it's always it's just, again, it's always nice to have somebody else who kind of experiences some of the same stuff, because if not, I kind of feel like I'm crazy or people think I'm crazy. So for example, the contractors. So the house we recently, or not recently, like September, October now, the contractors started building the laundry room where the guy was, apparently, that I didn't see, but apparently Dana did, and so did another guy, and the bathroom in the basement with the toilet blender. And so that I didn't meet the workers, I only met the contractor. And then one day I showed up to like drop off the permit or something, and so the workers were like, hey, this place is kind of wild. And they're like, yeah, that basement's creepy. And I'm like, the whole basement's creepy? And they're like, no, just the one section. And I was like, oh, which section? They're like, oh, in the back section right there. And I was like, oh, you want to see something? And that's when I pulled out a black light flashlight and I went there to show them the thing that how many months did it take to realize that was there?
At least 2 or 3 before we realized it.
Yeah. So we walked into the basement and I had a black light flashlight and I was like, what the shit is that? And it was a cross glowing bright on the door of that creepy basement I don't like. So it must have been a previous tenant, put a cross on the door. I use the word door. I don't know if that's the most appropriate term for what that is. It's kind of a gate.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
It's kind of like a fence more than a wall.
Yeah.
So the door, the gate, whatever. Somebody has made a cross with masking tape, but the masking tape is basically the exact same color as the paint on the wall, so you don't notice it unless and then next to it it's written turn on the lights, or turn the lights on, or whatever is right next to the cross. And so it took us a couple months before we noticed this, but I walked down there with a black light and there's this glowing cross down there. I was like, what the shit? Really? Like, because none of the paranormal investigators saw it. Nobody saw it. But of course, if the door's open, you wouldn't see it. So I showed him that and he was like, oh God, because that was the part that creeped him out. And some of the other things they had happened to them when he was in the solarium working on the laundry center, and he was hearing something. He was thought, that's really like, what's that noise? And he came out and he had 2 PVC pipes standing up and they were doing this back there. Mosquito, sorry. And so, yeah, so the pipes were moving back and forth, like rattling, hitting each other. And he's like, that's weird. And the door, there's a swing door that goes into the solarium, which is always open, and it was closed. And so he was like, ah. And then one night I showed up on a Friday night to, work for the weekend, as I do. And they were still there working, installing the shower. They had to shut off the water. Well, they were told they cannot leave until that water is on, because the contractor knows that I'm going to be there on the weekend. So they ended up being there until like 9:30 that night, which I was super excited about because that meant I wasn't alone. And so at that point in time, some point in time, one of the guys I was talking to, I was like, it's different here at night, huh? And he's like, yeah, come like 5:30, the energy totally changes around here. I'm like, yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. So it was like these like 20 something men were also like a little bit creeped out by the house, and going upstairs, and also felt it. So I thought that was kind of fun, because my husband is like, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts.
Except that one time.
Well, he still will say he doesn't believe in ghosts, but he made a joke.
Yes.
I felt like if for him to tell me that this happened meant that it must have been really weird to him. But we were hanging. The house has like 2 smoke detectors in every room. Yes, I'm like that. But one set is like the normal ones, and one set are connected. So if there's like a fire downstairs, the people upstairs will know, and vice versa, right? And so I had him helping me. One day he was there helping me deliver some heavy something or another, and I was like, hey, while you're here, can you just hang these really quick? I try not to go on ladders if I'm by myself. It's just a rule for life for me. I'm a safety conscious person. So he was hanging the smoke detectors, and it was in the middle room, the sitting room, where there's now a Victrola and a couch and a desk. And he dropped the screw, and it rolled under under the door into the closet. Yes. And then apparently he told me, he's like, oh, the ghost in that room must be really nice, like super helpful. And I was like, huh? What? Because again, he's always like, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts. And he's like, yeah. So I dropped the screw, it rolled under the closet, and then it rolled back out. So the ghost must be really nice in there. And I was like, all right, that's not kind of my feeling, but okay, sure. Yeah.
So apparently they like him because they didn't blow in his ear or talk to him.
He wasn't in the basement though. That's basement activity for sure. And I don't think he'd tell me if it did, because he has to die on this hill, but he doesn't believe in ghosts. So he's also, for the record, for those who don't know, has never spent a night in the house, and has never spent more than about 8 hours total in the house. So he hasn't spent as much time there as Dana and I, that's for sure. Having the cameras have been interesting. I wish I had them set up all the time, so that way we can see all the weird stuff that happens while we're there. But all the bangs, the thing is, I just didn't have the time to go through all the bangs and all the stuff that goes on in the house. Or else to watch for all the orbs and stuff. But it's nice having these paranormal investigators that are like friends, so that way I can be like, hey, what is this? Hey, what is this? And so they'll be like, oh, that's a spider. Oh, that's a moth. Oh, that's dust. And that night that the stuff was going on in the room, we had all sorts of weird stuff going on in the cameras, but they're just like, oh, that's dust. And I was like, it's a lot of dust. Okay. The only video that they ever were like, yeah, nope, I think that's an orb, is this one. I'll share. And this is like literally like just sitting around one day, and I'm I don't know, staring at my recorders, apparently, like watching that stuff, because oh my gosh, why
Facebook wants you to play a game.
I don't guess. This is ridiculous. Okay, I feel sorry for the people who are going to listen to this and hear that. Although for anybody listening as via podcast, I don't see this either, so I'm post this on YouTube as well. All right, so here is the video that they're like, yeah, I don't know. And where it says me talking, you can see, boop. So it just came straight out of the wall.
Yep.
Why is I talking level right where okay. All right, let's try that again. All right, so it's going to come straight out of the wall. And now remember, the house at the time had no central heat and air, so there was no air conditioner on, no reason for it to be blown around like that because nobody was even there. So, so I thought that was one of those like fun little videos. Said I wish I had more of those sort of things to show because I'm sure it happens all the time. It just requires a whole lot of energy to stare at screens to go through all the videos and stuff. And I don't know why I never thought about the pounding.
I know.
Why? Do you think like, so like honestly, like, have you, I said, you know, how we used to play leapfrog through the house and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When we were hanging the curtains. Now that was early on, that was during the summer, but have you ever actually been like scared in the house?
No, I don't think I've ever been scared. There was one night where we spent the night and I was sleeping on the bottom bunk and you had slept on the couch in the basement. Or, I'm sorry, the basement apartment. And I woke up and I just felt like there was something or someone over me just staring at me while I was sleeping. So, I mean, not that
you were in the
scared,
primary room.
Startled me.
You were in the primary room?
The bunk bed room, so the kids' room.
Okay. Huh.
And I was on the bottom bunk.
Okay.
Or the pull-out trundle, I should say.
Okay. My normal spot.
Yes.
I've never felt that in there. Like I said, I've had them try to open the doors, but maybe it's because I was locked the door, but I've had them try to open the doors because it only has like one of those little hooky latches. And so I've been in there where it's like the door is just like popped, basically. Like, you know, but it's latched, so it won't go anywhere. So I've had that happen a couple of times. And then the night of the great flood back in October, when it dumped rain, and we had like the creek went from dry to full in one night, like 8 feet. About midnight, I was on the bed and I heard like just clear as day. And I was like, and so I laid there for a while, like, do I get up? Because I'm like, that's not what the front door the door sounds like, because the door has a lot of glass in it. So you would hear a rattle sound like that's, so I had to think, I'm like, do I get up? And so I got up and I was like, all right, I better go outside and look, right? Like, is the creek, you know, cresting or whatever? And I went and I was like, I got like a foot to the creek crest, like, well, leave me alone. And so I went back to bed, but it wasn't until the next day when the contractor actually showed up and was like, hey, have you gone into the basement? And I was like, no. So there's the basement apartment, and then there's the unfinished part still in there, the creepy part. And he's like, there's like 4 inches of water there. And I was like, So I think that's why they decided to knock on the wall to like wake me up.
Yes.
Not that there was anything I could have done about it to let me know that the sump pump failed. It was, that was a fun night. So had that happen twice. It was kind of insanity. But yeah, so we've had all sorts of like cast of characters in the house, and luckily, like, I'm glad Mark, who is the contractor, his wife is an empath, and so she knew immediately when she walked in, the house was haunted. And even Mark's like, well, you know that there's something here, but it's fine. Like, I don't really notice it. It's fine. And I was like, you've never been here at night, buddy. And his guys were like, yeah, you have been here at night, like, because he wasn't there when they were working at 9:30 at night. But yeah, they were like, same thing, like, oh, I don't want to go upstairs. But so yeah, so you haven't ever really like truly felt like scared, and has it dulled also, like, because it's so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, like you said, I think they've gotten used to you and used to us. And even the last few times we were there working, like, there's not been, you know, banging telling us to stop, or anything of that sort.
Yeah, the last time I heard banging that I can think of was when I had the girls' weekend up there in December. There was a bunch of loud humans in one house because, you know, I'm not the loudest one in the group, and I'm pretty loud. There were like five, there were like 4 of us and mom. So like 4 loud people and mom. And yeah, so while we're like playing games and stuff, yeah, you hear the banging back there. And at one point, like at some point in time, I was like, yelled at Donna. She's the loudest. I'm like, Donna, shut up, listen. And then after that, she'd hear it and she'd be like, she'd just make eye contact at me and like point because she could hear it. But it like it, you know, that was the last time I think I really heard banging. But again, I feel like the more energy is in the house, like the more there's to do with. So like the woman from the group who had quite a bit of time, they talked to the ghost for like 3 hours. And so they said that they heard on the recorder that the name was Sam, which when we were there originally, there was Tammy and there was Sam. And Sam is a skeptic, and she was part of the paranormal investigation. She still doesn't really believe. Cool. I mean, that's fine. And so they were trying to figure out, like, when they heard it, were they saying Sam or Sammy or Tammy, like trying to figure out who. So the fact that they said the name was Sam was a little bit weird, just because we had that same conversation in the basement about names, but we thought they were talking about the people there, not themselves. Although, again, when I talk to them now, like I'll refer to this like Sam now that Bethany's gone. But you know, just it's nice to have a name. Although I did get a phone call last week from a woman whose family owned the house for 70 some odd years, and like I was like, hello, and she said, what have you seen in that house? Hi, like that's a really weird way to answer the phone, like. And I was like, I haven't seen anything, like what. So when I had bought the house, I'd been told her name, and I've been told that the family had the house for like in the set for like 70 years. And so I called her and I said, is the house haunted? She's like, no, I don't think so. So we've never like seen ghosts. No, nothing like that. She's like, although some kids once said that they saw a ghost in the basement. Okay. So then she calls me very accusatory. What did you see in the house? Right. And I was like, and so I explained to her, no, I'm not seeing anything. God, I'd freak out if I was seeing stuff. But you know, I hear stuff and this kind of stuff goes on. And she then told me that one of her friends said they saw her father in the basement. And her father's name's Stefano or Steve. And so I had to ask the hard question. I said, by any chance, is your dad an asshole? And she's like, no. I was like, okay, like I'm trying to figure out who this guy is. Like, right. I mean, I was hard to ask. Like, how do you ask somebody that question? But I was like, this is a hard question, but like, really, was he an asshole? Because, you know, like, but yeah, so a lot of story has changed from her, continues to change every time I talk to her. I hope at some point in time to get her to come out and see the house, because it is very different than when she lived there. Some of it, the downstairs basement apartment area is similar, I suppose, but a family who owned it after that spent, she says, $500,000, which seems excessive, remodeling the house. And because her niece had shown up at some point in time when the renter was there and told her that the stairway was completely different, everything. So like all of that was changed, like just the direction of it was changed. So a lot of work was legitimately done to it. But yeah, so all sorts of stories, because she's talked about the craps tables and the primary bedroom in the basement apartment.
Yes.
Dining room, which makes sense because there's a swing door, which we have closed off and sealed off. And there used to be a window, which the frame is still there, that used to go into the dining room as well. She said where they served chicken and ravioli dinners on Sundays. So that used to be the dining room. And I think the crafts table was down there in the basement as well, that they had left.
Yes.
And she was talking about mirrors this time. So yeah, always like interesting, different information. But one of the things I found interesting is that it was owned by the man who owned the Argonaut, the main mine. So it was the first owner of that property. No house, or that I can figure out. I can't find a house there. All the paperwork says this house was built in 1906, but in 1877, he purchased it for like $7.72 in gold from the judge. And it was the owner of the can it be mine? And then the person who owned it in 1906, I believe, also owned a mine called El Paraiso. And so then Yolanda's dad bought it in 24 or whatever, use it with $10 in gold. So yeah, so there's a whole lot of gold
awesome.
going around there, but I can't find too much. I've been looking and looking. There was a fire in the basement. She can't tell me. She thinks it happens in the 20s, but she doesn't know how, why, or anything else. But yeah, there was definitely a fire in the basement. It's obvious in the unfinished part of the basement. You can even see the smoke in the attic. I went in the attic and it did not. So I got to see it.
Well, I went in, but I stayed at the opening.
You didn't go in.
You crawled around.
You didn't go in. You just was like, oh, look at this. You just made sure I didn't die up there alone. Yeah, that was your job, was the spotter, to make sure that I did not die up there by myself.
Of course, I did call for you though, because I didn't hear you for a while. And I'm like, Elsie, are you still alive?
I was so interested in the roof in there, because it's like this house was just like added on to, and at some point in time they decided to make it taller and stick a roof on top, but they didn't take out the old roof, so there's like the wood shake roof under there, like just sitting in. Within the other roof is like 5 feet, 4 feet above it. It's very strange. It was unexpected, to say the least. But yeah, so I wanted to go up there so bad, but I just didn't want to do it by myself, because again, I try not to go on ladders by myself, especially in haunted houses. But yeah. Any other stories you can think of that are like?
The only other one I can think of is when you had your nieces there and the camera followed one of them into the bedroom.
Yeah, I think I have to get them to talk about our little trip. I'm going to try to see if I can get them to talk about it. Yeah, it was a weird camera situation. I mean, it was just a weird couple of things that happened there.
Yes.
But yeah, so again, whenever there's a group, there's always a lot more energy and they seem to really act up. But for me, they cannot be bothered anymore for me. I'm old news, so they need, people to book the Airbnb and stay in there so they can get, excited about new people. But I am just old news at this point in time. But yeah, it was really cool to get like the whole page where they literally like wrote down all the questions they asked and the reactions they got from one of the groups who came through. They were the guy booked it, but there was the women were doing this, and there was a group of 8 people who came through. And he had asked me, he's like, is the house really haunted? And I'm like, yes, it's really haunted. Like, why would I say that? Like, and the reason why I built it in there was because I feel like for people like me or anybody who feels energy, it's not fair to not tell you. And he had said, oh yeah, we booked a place in Sutter Creek, which we thought was probably haunted, but nobody said anything about it, type of thing. And so they were like not afraid of it, kind of interested in it, but not like paranormal investigators. We have a group of those coming next month too, in May, staying. And hopefully getting some other paranormal investigator groups out to get more videos for us. But because again, I'm old news, nobody wants to talk. The ghosts don't want to talk to me anymore. I used to be able to get them to talk to me anytime I wanted, but now, no. Yeah. Now they want nothing to do now with me. But yeah, so I just need more groups. That's it. So we'll see, because this weekend I'm going up and staying the weekend with 3 other girls, my sister-in-law and 2 of her friends. And one of them is totally freaked out. So
I want to know all about it.
So we'll see if I seriously doubt she'll be down to talking to ghosts. My sister-in-law, I actually forgot that I wasn't sure if my sister-in-law, if she would be nervous or unwilling to do this, but I forgot she went to New Orleans with me. So she's always when we went to LA, I forced her to go to the Museum of Death and stuff like that with me. And she did that in New Orleans with me as well. So clearly she's always game for my shenanigans. So I actually forgot about that, because I was like, I wonder if she'll be willing to stay there because it's haunted. Totally is. But one of the friends is totally freaked out about the whole hauntedness. So we'll see, because with 4 people in there, maybe they'll act a little bit well for us.
Right.
We'll have to see.
How fun. I can't wait to hear about it though.
Yeah. So we'll see what we get. If nothing else, I'm just looking forward to doing some wine tasting, and because I love wine.
Look, go to Luca's down the street, grab your bottle, and take it with you.
Take it with me. Yeah.
Because you do have the lady that people will drive around.
Yes,
She'll drive their car.
She's going to drive my car if I get the vanity out of there before then. Hello. So yeah, so I do have the Amador wine driver driving us around so we can drink too much and go hang out in the haunted house. Hopefully we'll sleep well. So I'm just glad that I slept there by myself. You know, I anticipate nobody's going to be sharing a room with me now. So, but
you did great.
You're always you're always game for it. Luckily,
always.
Like the first time.
I can't always go, but I'm always down for it.
Yeah, and when you are though, like when you have spent the night, you're always like, oh, okay, we're gonna sleep up. We have to sleep upstairs. Okay, fine. I'll share a room with you, so you don't have to be alone. So. So it's not me like having to like hide by myself, except for the night that I fell asleep on the couch.
Well, although I did watch Harry Potter going to sleep and had some very weird dreams, but probably maybe because of Harry Potter, not the Red Room.
I have got nothing but zombie dreams lately, thanks to Walking Dead. So I'm so glad I watched this now and not like earlier in the pandemic, because good Lord, this is it's not good for my brain, but I'm almost done, so it's fine. All righty. Well, I guess I will let you go. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll have a lot more to talk about in the future.
Thanks for having me.
More of projects to do around the house here pretty soon, but it was a lot of work, and so I appreciate all the work you helped me do around there as well. You're the best.
You're welcome.
All right, bye.
Bye.